So Lara, so there's something that for honestly 15 years has been bothering me, and I struggle with it on a daily basis, and that's trust. So not trust of anyone in particular, but it's this this notion of when you truly want to do something to help somebody, and having the experience of having gone through maybe even the same scenario that they've been through, and you giving them the insights and sharing it, that they just don't trust. If they trust you enough, they just don't trust enough, call it, just
Right.
in a general sense, to be able to accept the insights, to be able to make the changes they need that ultimately is going to be good for them either personally or professionally. So we work with a number of companies like this where it's the classic, a CEO or a founder has had the passion and the vision to start something, and they've had some phenomenal success, built a company to sort of a small or medium-sized company, let's say doing revenues anywhere from, I don't know, 5 to 15 or maybe even $20 million, and they want to get it to the next level. And this is something we can really help them with, but it's getting them to the place that they trust the source of the information, that you have their best interests in heart, and that if they only listen to us, that they really are going to be able to take the business to the next level. So it comes down to that trust. And I get it. I mean, we're just one voice or two voices in amongst the sea of opinions that they're getting. And unfortunately, there are bad actors that sort of dirty the water and make it hard for them to make a decision. So I guess from two perspectives, like, have you thought about and sort of brainstorming, how do we shorten that trust cycle so that companies can trust working us and people can trust working with us more? And then how do you help people figure out how you filter through the muddy waters and sort of choose the people? It doesn't have to be us, it can be other organizations.
Right.
Obviously, lots of good people out there that can help people scale. But what insights can you give organizations and people to choose the insights that they should accept and to avoid the bad actors?
I think in a short sentence, you're saying, how do we help people get out their own way?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Given on any day, you'll hear me just being quite candid and direct about it. You're in my way. We need to.
Right. Absolutely.
But it is tough because I think it's extremely painful, speaking firsthand, when you're working with extremely talented entrepreneurs who have done amazing work, but who literally stall on kind of overly drinking their own Kool-Aid, where sometimes it is a trust piece. And I maybe use the wrong words, but I see scenarios, kind of three buckets. One bucket where maybe it's trust, maybe it's fear, maybe it's narcissism, who knows, but this underlying belief that everyone around me is an idiot and no one's going to do it as well as me.
Yeah, and we talked about that's the not invented here syndrome,
yeah,
right?
Not invented here
unless
syndrome.
Unless it's my idea, then I don't want to hear it.
Exactly, and it's a perpetual cycle, because in that scenario, let's call it leader or entrepreneur A, they're almost consciously or subconsciously seeking out opportunities to prove to everybody who works with them, who's trying to either do a great job or help, to say, aha,
right.
You see,
right.
You didn't do it right.
Right.
And what happens is they're demotivating everyone around them. In many cases, these individuals flee from them, and then they're back saying, you see, no one can do it but me.
Right. So that's the confirmation bias. It's
Yes.
like once you have a certain lens, you're looking for pieces
Right.
to just support your opinion. Yeah.
Correct. So that's kind of bucket A leader.
Yeah.
Bucket B leader is just not a good judge of character and keeps surrounding themselves with individuals who maybe aren't correctly aligned for the job at hand. And that's sometimes that alignment of what is the goal and what is it 100-day road mapping, and probably has not invested enough time really strategizing and planning, and could really just benefit from saying, hit the pause button and actually think a little bit more critically as to what needs to happen to actualize this vision. And we've worked with leaders like that too,
right.
where it's throw of the dice, what's our goal for the quarter, throw of the dice, let's try and raise X amount of cash, but really there's no architecture behind it that actually substantiates it. And as a result, individuals are put into roles that probably they shouldn't be in.
Right.
And it's not so much a trust thing, it's just I don't know if it's blatant ignorance, but it's almost just dream big, think big, and we'll get there, right?
Right.
A wing and a prayer leader.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And then the third bucket, I would say, it's truly that true trust piece where there's either edginess of lack of personal self-confidence, there's emotional sunburn from their own background where they've been taken advantage of, had a bad deal,
yeah.
but they just really operate cautiously, where any advice that comes in is seen almost from suspicion of, do you have an ulterior motive?
Right.
And so that's tough because you're dealing with layers and layers. They're all tough, but we all have to be almost there's an anecdote that's different for each of those scenarios. I think the core thing is self-awareness, though. Regardless whether, when we sometimes suddenly, we all do, every human out there sometimes can exhibit any of those three characteristics, but it's about self-awareness, right? Do you recognize that the business is stalling and that potentially you may be the roadblock? And that, Oren, is extremely painful.
Yeah.
It's the same in a relationship,
It's
right?
yeah, totally. I mean, just touching on that piece.
Yeah.
So you may be the roadblock, like you probably are the roadblock. And there was a phenomenal. I'm not sure if I'm going to get the quote right. I heard it recently from a rabbi, I believe, where he said it was talking about somebody who passed away, and basically said he became who he wanted to be. So basically, when you die, that's who you want to be. And the sort of subcontext to that is essentially we create our environment in the world that we want. So whatever we visualize, like you were saying, if somebody's thinking about things a certain way, then they sort of search out the confirmation bias. They search out the friends and the people that they would hire, and the data points to support their opinion. So essentially they create their own reality because that's what they were thinking. They create that. And so that all the way through to life. So then when you're dying, it's like you got what you wanted, basically. Because it's a crazy concept.
No, I get it. I think it's, I was talking to someone very close to me about this just yesterday, saying that you will create whatever reality you want, right? If you want problems, you can find gazillions.
Yes.
If you want to see beauty in the world and amazing things in your life, you will find them. It's actually, it's completely that. So I think recognizing that if I have obstacle after obstacle and everyone around me is letting me down and I can't trust anyone, being bold enough, and we talk about a bedrock, right? Have you got the courage, right? To be able to say, well, hold on, if I keep feeling the same thing or keep experiencing the same business letdown or failure or whatever it is, the constant might be me.
Right.
Right? And if I don't see what I'm doing, and maybe I'm doing nothing, let me at least seek an objective third-party opinion, a coach, a counselor, anyone, personally, spiritually, professionally, to say, hey, can I bounce some ideas? Because I need some objective feedback. If we could get these CEOs, these three categories, to that point, Oren, oh my gosh, their businesses would 10x overnight.
So here's an idea for you, because it's actually just being vulnerable and sharing some of my personal experiences that I went through recently. So, we've gone through ups and downs, and business is ups and downs, and we lost some big clients that were helpful. So that sort of put me in a place where I started to think about pushing me more into that scarcity mentality. So we have just my lifestyle is such that I have a certain amount of income that I need just to keep things up. Like we don't live an extravagant lifestyle, but I have kids and I have schools and choices we make. And as a result of that, there's a certain amount of money I need to make. And so losing this clients and putting me back in the situation where like, okay, I need to worry about this was starting to edge me back into that scarcity mindset, and I didn't like it. And so I started to reflect on, okay, what question am I asking myself? Because I'm a big believer in, and I heard this concept from Tony Robbins, and I've heard it in a number of sources from spiritual sources as well, that talk about, like, at the end of the day, we're walking around asking ourselves like a primary question.
Right.
And that primary question is going to do what we were talking about before. It's going to shape the lens that you look at the world, and you're going to look for confirmation bias, or you're going to have confirmation bias to search out information to answer that question for you. So for me, the question was something along the lines of, okay, finding enough money to support my monthly annual income needs, and when there weren't immediate opportunities apparent, it was creating stress for me, because how my mind works is I have to problem solve for something. I have to have a way. And I started to figure out, okay, so there's opportunities. And so that's good. It's at a healthy level, because it forces me and motivates me to find opportunity, and opportunities do come from that. But it's still, it was, I didn't like the mindset, because I want to be able to problem solve through those opportunities with not having the nagging subconscious stress that's just lingering. I found this question showing up in many different facets of my day. So when I was in a meeting, because I'm thinking about how I can make more money, I started to feel scarce and started to think about, okay, can this person help me make more money? And that's not me, but it was showing up in different settings, because it was driving literally, and I was just aware of how my mind was searching out ways to answer this question. So I forcefully pushed myself to say, okay, ask yourself a different question. And the question I've been asking myself for the last few weeks is, how can I add most value? And not just in the day, but in every opportunity. And it's been it's been phenomenal. It's been just like a much lighter existence. And
amazing.
I'm going into, okay, if I'm sitting down and I'm having dinner with my family, I'm like, okay, how can I add the most value? Because if I'm
Right.
not here tomorrow, if I'm not here in 10 minutes, like I want to make sure this last moment is the most valuable moment. So it's like, all I can do is add value in the present moment. And it's in a meeting, it's sort of shifted me back into that abundance setting, because in sales calls that I'm going and meeting with clients, I'm not trying to sell them, because the selling is more of the scarcity. I'm like, okay, let me just see how can I add most value in this meeting, and just
Right.
coming at it from that place. It's just been a fundamental shift in how I've been thinking about stuff. So
That's
anyway,
great.
it's a bit of an aside, but I think if we can help some of these CEOs and entrepreneurs that are maybe stuck in their own roadblocks, like, do you think there's a way that we can help them reframe the questions they're asking themselves, because that can have a shift for them?
Yes. I love using the phrase gap, right? I'll talk about whether it be in performance management, whether it be in capital raise, business strategy. What's the desired goal? Where are we at? And there's a gap, right? And how we're going to close that gap or delta. In any bridging of a gap scenario, you have to recognize the gap. That to me is the biggest challenge with these entrepreneurs or individuals who we work with.
Right.
Again, this advice extends to personal life and relationships as much as it does business.
Right.
If we ourselves don't recognize gaps, it's impossible to work on something. I think that is the biggest challenge.
It's the awareness.
It's
Absolutely.
the awareness. And so coming to your point on questions, being aware enough to know you even asking yourself a question is significant. So I understand, like, Oren, you worked on yourself for a very long time.
Yeah.
Your level of self-awareness and self-actualization is going to be different to someone
Sure.
who's not yet on the journey or not even aware there is a journey. So for those of us who believe we've had this opportunity to kind of work at asking ourselves questions to kind of change our frame of mind, change our realities, and that's Bedrock's principle. Let's be owners, right? Let's not be owned. And that doesn't mean own our own business. It means own our destiny, own
Right.
our frame of mind, own our choices. How do we help empower those who we encounter to be able to start this journey of recognizing there's a gap? And for some, the gap is I can be a better fill in the blank. For others, it's the fact that I can grow better teams around me. I can be more effective at capital. There's all these gaps. We don't have the answers on how to bridge all those gaps because we're not experts at everything, but we are pretty robust at being able to help individuals on that journey of opening their mind to there's a gap. And once you recognize the gap, most people come up with their own answers. What do you think?
No, I think it's good. I think I totally agree with you. I mean, back to the digging in. That's one of our principles, is digging in, is building that self-awareness. Because you need to, if you don't know what you don't know, you can't. That's one of the stages of learning. You have to know what you don't know to be able to work on it.
Exactly.
And I'll say the one thing just to add to that to our followers is that what I did is, yeah, you can spend the years and years. I've probably worked on myself for 10, probably 15, 20 years. And you can build that self-awareness, but that's going to take time. But there are ways you can short circuit. And what I proved to myself over the last few weeks is I did short circuit the process by forcing myself to ask myself a new question. So I would challenge everyone out there, all of our followers, to say, you might not know the question that you're asking yourself today, but define the question that you want to ask yourself, and then write that down, and write it down. I wrote it down in my diary every day, this question I want to ask myself, and just put that in your awareness. And just say, this is who I want to be, this is the question I want to ask myself, and you can short circuit the process.
Love that.